Hi everyone, this is a CRMO CNO journey and this is part 5. Check out the other videos for the other parts. So in the last part I was talking about Noah's first diagnosis of Gary's osteomyelitis, which is a bacterial form of osteomyelitis. So he left the hospital, he did 6 weeks worth of oral antibiotics and 2 weekly bloods. And after the 6 weeks, his face had gone down quite a lot. He had an appointment with his immunologist and an appointment with his surgeon, and they were both extremely happy with the progress. I, on the other hand, was very apprehensive because I'd worked out that he tended to have a swelling occur every 12 weeks. And obviously it had only been 6 weeks since his last flare-up. Something that I thought was quite indicative of CRMO or CNO. So we waited, and then sure enough, exactly 12 weeks to the day of when it started before, his face started to swell up. Now Noah, before he has a flare up, he turns very quiet. He doesn't really participate in anything, and I think that's because he can start to feel the pain. He also starts to wake up at night, and prior to this flare-up, so this was July, prior to this flare-up, he hadn't really had a lot of pain, and this time the swelling came on even quicker. He wasn't able to open his mouth very wide. That happened quicker. And the pain was a lot more dramatic, so much so that he was asking for painkillers, pain meds, which we were just using sort of paracetamol and ibuprofen, and it was getting worse in a sense that he had to have, like, he was like, when can I have my next pain med, because it was that bad. And I was using like natural remedies, homeopathy, and also I'd used like an arnica cream, which had worked in the past, but they just didn't seem to be touching it. And so we actually went up to the children's ward in our local hospital and presented as like a day case, and they saw him and they obviously knew that there was nothing that they could do. So we really wanted to speak to our surgeon, but she wasn't available. She was on annual leave, so we couldn't discuss it with her. So we went over a course of a weekend, and we decided that on the Monday we would head off to A&E department at the Royal Aberdeen Children's Hospital, and whilst throughout the weekend one of the doctors at the children's hospital near us, they had contacted our immunologist, and she had got in contact with me and rung me and said, right, okay, good thing, go to A&E, and obviously we'll start the ball rolling again. So it was another A&E admittance, and this time thankfully we were literally in A&E for about 10 minutes before a surgeon had come down from the adults maxillofacial unit to see Noah. He could see how much pain he was in. He could see that he couldn't open his jaw, so no movement, and they booked him into the ward. And so this was, I think, a 3-day stay in the end. We didn't know how long we would be there, but we knew that we realistically couldn't leave without more answers because the pain had got too much. They still were treating him with Gary's osteomyelitis, but thankfully the immunologist agreed with me to hold off on the antibiotics because the surgeons wanted to give another load of intravenous antibiotics. But I had said that it didn't do anything the last time, and I didn't want him being pumped full of antibiotics unnecessarily. So there were a lot more tests that needed to be done. He had another cone beam scan. The maxillofacial consultant that we were dealing with was very sure that it was the jaw, it was osteomyelitis. But within a few hours of Noah being admitted, he started to present with a limp on his left leg, and he was walking with his leg turned in, and it was painful. And so this, to me and the immunologist, said that there was something else going on, and there was another possible lesion on his left side. And for me, I'm a massage therapist. I've done my anatomy and physiology. It was looking to be pelvic. He had an X-ray, nothing showed up, but that's not unusual. Pediatrics will always X-ray because just to check there's no breakages, but they kind of palmed him off because there wasn't anything major, they said, that was there. He wasn't screaming when you touched his leg, but it wasn't a break. And they realistically only deal with breakages, so they couldn't see anything. But with CRMO or CNO, it will not show very often in an X-ray. If it does, it's quite rare. So we managed to get, because we stayed in the hospital, we managed to get an emergency appointment MRI. So we got another full body contrast MRI, and obviously the previous one I had back in May. So this was only 2 months later. And the MRI came back that he had further lesions on his pelvis, on his tibia, on his left leg, on his fibula, on his right leg, and on his foot and ankle of the left, which explained the reason why there was pain. It explained the reason why he wasn't walking properly. And when you see your child start to walk unusually, it's a major concern, and you could tell our immunologist was concerned. We also saw the rheumatologist again, and so we were sort of in with the right team. And our immunologist, even though realistically it's not completely her field, she was amazing. And all I can say to anybody that is starting this journey or finds themselves down this journey, if you can get somebody that just believes in you and that will work with you, it will move mountains, because she definitely moved mountains. We were able to see so many people. They were concerned that he had possible major infection in his body. They thought he had MRSA at one point because he was looking poorly. So he had heart, he was monitored, had all his heart checked, but thankfully that was okay. He had lots of nasty swabs that he didn't like, but thankfully they came back okay. And the tests and the more and more bloods that they were doing which realistically, if someone's got MRSA or a major infection, the markers will come back as showing that they've got an infection in their body, and nothing was coming back. He didn't have a temperature, he wasn't coughing, he wasn't being sick, he was just in pain with his mouth. So that was that. They'd got all of like a big history of what they were seeing, and we're in Scotland and they have meetings in Edinburgh on a regular basis about children and discuss different things, and they discussed everything, all the findings, and there was a board of people that were sitting discussing Noah's presentations, and thankfully they gave the final diagnosis of CRMO or CNO, which it's bittersweet because it wasn't a Gary's osteomyelitis, which can be quite nasty and very difficult to treat. But CRMO or CNO is just as nasty to treat. It's quite debilitating, and as I've already explained, it can be present in any bone of the body. There's flare-ups, they can occur anytime. So that was where we were at in July. We had a diagnosis. Noah was able to then be given an NSAID or naproxen, which would help the pain and hopefully the inflammation that was in his face. So apologise for talking for 12 minutes, but I felt this is one of the ones that needs to be talked about. And I kind of gather that most people that are watching this are probably on a similar journey, and therefore they just want to know, you know, what we went through, what we're going through, and whether they're in the same situation. So that's that. I've got more because obviously we're now in September, so I will just share that as and when.